This video is going to be my first preview of the Ravens Week 2 matchup against the Las Vegas Raiders at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore on Sunday. Look, this is going to focus on the Raiders defense, which is where I focused the majority of my film study as it relates to, I did a film study video about J.K. Dobbins earlier in the week, the former Raven who ran for 135 yards. A great story from Baltimore fans' perspective, people that respect and look up to and are root for J.K. Dobbins. But this is a fast, physical, and impressive defense that the Raiders are bringing, if you ask me. The defensive coordinator, Patrick Graham, I think has done a really nice job in the last 2 years. Now, there's a large differential. There's a break point for last year related to Josh McDaniels firing. Additional, it's the bye week. And so let me explain a little bit of that. If Raiders fans listen, they know what I'm talking about. Ravens fans may not. First of all, Las Vegas' defense finished 9th in points per game allowed in 2023. Obviously, really high level. But after the bye in 2023, they had the best ranking in the league in terms of points per game allowed. 15 points allowed per game in the final 5 games of the year. Went 3-2 during that stretch, had a 3-0 loss to the Vikings, and then a 23-20 loss, I think, next to the last game of the season. Can't remember who that was against, but in any case, they finished 8-9. That record obviously could have been flipped. Those 2 games are really close. Maybe even 10 wins was conceivable. I don't know the game flow of those 2 games, but a 3-point loss is a 3-point loss. The front 6 or front 7, depending on the personnel group they're facing, I thought played extremely fast against the Chargers. Look, J.K. ended with 135 and a touchdown. Gus, I think, had a touchdown, a 12-yard touchdown run. But overall, the Chargers had 316 yards of offense, only produced 11 first downs. Of their 316 yards of offense, J.K. had a 61-yarder, 62, something like that, and a 46 or 47-yarder. So you're talking about 2 runs that generated 100 yards. Other than that, about 215 yards of total offense. I think this is a better defense than maybe people are aware of at this point in time. The only thing I'm basing that off of is the film that I watched. That's it. So the way that I'm going to do this preview is I'm going to focus on the pass game first and then the run game. I actually believe the Ravens' clearest path to victory is running the ball well. Can that happen? Does it happen? I don't know. I'm going to save that for the later part of this preview. We'll show film of the Ravens in here, and I'll show significant film of the Raiders. That's what I try to do on this channel, so let's get to it. Ravens obviously had difficulty in pass pro last week against the Chiefs. Multiple spots on the O-line, don't get me wrong. Oftentimes it was from the right side. Right guard, right tackle, I think has pretty much been the identifiable weakness of this offensive line going into the season. Left guard as well. You're talking about 3 spots where they replaced either veteran guys or guys who were serviceable or above average in 2023. The Chiefs, do they compare to the Raiders' defense? Well, they have Chris Jones. They have a marquee interior, exterior defensive lineman. Chris Jones can pretty much line up anywhere, and he did. In fact, in that game, there was times where he told people to move, and they did. The Raiders bring Maxx Crosby and Christian Wilkins to town. Both of those guys as highly rated as anyone in the league at their particular position. Yes, Lamar can escape pressure and make things happen. He did that against the Chiefs. A 4-man rush is oftentimes, if you ask me, a recipe for disaster against Lamar because he can find the gap and create space and scramble for easy yards. It can break your back. Look at the 49ers game last year, I believe Christmas night, where he had 2 scrambles in the second quarter that really the 49ers defensive line and defenders overall got up afterwards, and you could see the visible frustration, their body language, shoulders dipping, head looking down. So he can do that to anybody. But the Ravens have got to get better in pass pro. There's just no doubt about it. Whether that means keeping players in to chip a lot, that's not a really terrible thing to do. The Kansas City Chiefs do that almost as much as anyone else in the league, in my opinion. It's interesting dynamic this year between the AFC North and the AFC West. You've got the 2 Harbaugh brothers now coaching against the same team in consecutive weeks. The Ravens faced the Chiefs in week 1, and of course, Jim out in Los Angeles with the Chargers is going to face the Chiefs twice this year. That entire dynamic, I think, is very interesting. The Ravens will need, if you ask me, a much improved offensive line performance if they want to hold off Maxx Crosby Wilkins, and all the crazy stuff that they do up front, particularly on third and medium or third and long. Lamar is the X factor, obviously. I do think the Raiders' answer, if and when Lamar scrambles out, is going to be vastly different than Steve Spagnuolo's answer was last Thursday night. Switch over to the Raiders film a little bit here. While it is interesting and enjoyable and actually a lot of fun to watch the pressure they bring on third down and how Graham and look, Marvin Lewis is their assistant head coach. So that's another dynamic that I didn't mention in the lead-in. Fans have a ton of familiarity with him. It'll be an interesting dynamic if you ask me. Him coming to Baltimore with his defensive prowess and his expertise. The Raiders like to, I think, at least against the Chargers, not necessarily sell out to stop the run, but certainly put pressure on Greg Roman and the offensive line, J.K. and Gus, to be able to execute their run concepts against heavy pressure. This is the first play of the game. It's 21 personnel, but it's a 12 personnel formation. The fullback, 44, is lined up at tight end. Now, Herbert does a great job getting the ball out here to the tight end. The bottom side of the screen, Disley is the tight end. But watch what the Raiders' reaction is, and then 2 plays from now, at least in the terms of this video, check out what they do. It's pretty much the same thing. So Crosby's going to stunt to the inside, and the strong safety off the edge is going to blitz. This could be a run blitz. This could be a pass blitz. In any case, they've moved into an 8-man front, and they are coming after you now, creating pressure. The coverage, I would call a 3-deep, 2 under. People have different names for it. You may say, well, Coach, that's not sound. First of all, the ball's going to be thrown quick. Second of all, oftentimes, from what I know of it, these guys are able and allowed and actually taught in this situation, going ahead and read the quarterback and respond to him immediately because he's got to get rid of the ball fast. We're bringing heavy pressure. Basically, you're talking about a 6-man, 6 guys rushing the quarterback or being available to rush the quarterback, and then 5 guys in coverage. So it's simplistic in that manner, but it's very aggressive. I like it, even though in this case, from a Raiders perspective, turned out to be a 13-yard gain for Disley, even down into the boundary. Keep that one in mind for 2 plays from now. These are all going to be first down pass plays, okay? So this isn't a progression. This isn't the very next play. These are first downs, either the first play of a drive or after they've gained a first down, and they're throwing the football. I think it's an important spot. I think the Ravens want to loosen this defense up if possible. Look at what the Chiefs did with Derrick Henry on the field. They were stacking the box, bringing pressure. These are simplistic observations by me. I know you can do things from a formation standpoint or personnel to force guys out of the box. The Raiders are very multiple. I think Graham, and I'm quite sure that Lewis is heavily involved here, are very multiple. They get a lot of things done, accomplish a lot of tasks in different ways. They have multiple pathways to get to the same end. It's a 5-1 look here. There's your solo inside linebacker, nickel defender. So it's 11 personnel bunch, going to be a snag concept up to the top side of the field. I mean, the Ravens run that a ton. So Johnston is sitting down, the little snag, and then the running back is running out into the flats. After the motion, ends up being a 9-yard gain. It's not the running back in the flats, my apologies. It's the guy in motion, Davis, who's super talented as well. But you've got multiple coverages these guys play from all kinds of different fronts or alignments. And I think at times against the Chargers, they were kind of forcing Greg Roman's hand and saying, go ahead and throw the ball. Let's see if you can. Is it possible they do that against the Ravens? Well, look at our offensive line situation. I think that their reaction is going to be vastly different from the Chiefs. The Chiefs had success winning pass rush plays early and went away from heavy pressure. You tell me what you think in the comment section. I did not feel like they were bringing a ton of pressure. By the way, this is 21 personnel, and you have another 5-1 nickel. So the same exact formation and personnel grouping as the first play that I showed you. By the way, this is the 5th possession, but again, it's a 1st and 10. And watch what the Raiders do. They bring the same nickel defender. I think it's 39 Hobbs, except a little bit of different variation between him and Crosby, and play 3 deep, 2 under. In this case, Herbert again is able to find a receiver. It's Ladd McConkey who's able to get the first down, 11 yards. So I think there's some automatic reactions to their defense, which is not uncommon. People use automatics. I did. I relied on them. I wasn't smart enough to be able to adjust in games sometimes to what offensive coaches do. So we have automatics that theoretically put us in the best look. I wonder how often they do this, and I wonder what the Ravens coaches have found in terms of automatics that they run. AFC, automatic front checks is what some people call it, to try to get the Raiders in the best look. They certainly played extremely well against the Chargers, in my opinion. Same play, end zone angle. Again, it's a 1st and 10, under center, ace, play action. I think the Ravens have got to get to this. First down, throwing the ball against them, maybe out of play action, create a little bit more space between the second level defenders, inside linebackers, and nickel defenders, and the third level, the actual outside corners and the free safeties. 7th possession, another 1st and 10. Now, this is 11 personnel, to my knowledge, unless there's a player on the field here for the Chargers that I'm unaware of, meaning he's a tight end or a running back. I think you've got one tight end up to the top side, 3 receivers, and then obviously a running back in the backfield is J.K., so 11 personnel. And let's look at what the Raiders reacted with or responded with. You've got 2 inside linebackers, Spillane, a severely underrated football player, and Diablo, hopefully I'm saying his name correctly, I'll just say Diablo, makes sense. 2 OLBs, Crosby, and 49, I forget his name, but I'll remember it in a second. And then the interior defensive lineman. So you've got your base 3-4 for the Raiders against 11 personnel. That's rare. That's unique. That's not what the typical reaction would be by NFL or high-level college defenses. You're normally going to be in your nickel look. It took me a long time to figure. Well, first of all, 49 when he's on the field, 49 with Crosby, and they get 11 personnel. Generally, 49 is going to the boundary, and Crosby is going to the field. Now, they may switch that up this week against the Ravens, but in the scouting stuff that I've watched, I at least know that. And so if that is true, the Ravens could theoretically go 11 personnel, know where Crosby's going to be, and then possibly kick their pass pro coverage to that side. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. It's a nice job. Herbert did not have great stats this game, but he's trying to go here. It's a version of cover 3 by the Raiders. You can see the 3 deep delineation there, and then 4 under. They played a lot of this. Basically, if they were in their base defense, they were playing cover 3. Another 3-4 base defense, cover 3 against 11 personnel. You got Davis in motion to the field. This one happens to be a late developing wheel to the tight end, Hayden Hurst, who the Ravens and Baltimore fans obviously have great familiarity with. There's a ton of Ravens on that team, but Hurst is lined up out here. I believe it's 11 personnel again. I think you've got 2 receivers down here to the boundary, a wide receiver here, and then Hurst being the tight end. So for my money, this is anomalous because you've got a 3-4 structure, and 49 is the other OLB, this case lined up to the field, the exact opposite of what I talked about a moment ago. And the second guy through is Hurst. He's running this delayed wheel, basically underneath of the space that's vacated by the number 1 receiver, running a vertical. 27 yards from Herbert. These are all 1st and 10 pass plays. Am I saying I think it's going to work? All you got to do is throw the ball on 1st down? No. You still got a pass pro, and the Ravens had trouble with that. Kind of used video a moment ago to establish it. I think it'll still be an issue, the pass pro. In my opinion, we can control it by getting some productive 1st down pass plays going. Put this defense on their heels, not let them get in attack mode so much early in each series, or maybe I should say sequence of downs, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd down. And having said that about 1st down pass plays, it would obviously behoove the Ravens to be able to run the ball on 1st down, to develop some 2nd and 5s or even 2nd and 4s. Putting the Raiders defense, which I think enjoys being in attack mode, maybe I should say they thrive off being in attack mode. We're looking at a small sample size. They've only played the Chargers so far. It's not like the Ravens run game outside of Lamar really, blew the doors off the Chiefs at all. Lamar obviously had 122 yards on the ground. I personally don't think there's anything wrong with Derrick Henry, but I've seen the comments from people. I'll leave that alone, and I guess we'll see at the end of the 17-game regular season. But Lamar had 122 on the ground. So the Ravens' 185 on 32 carries looks great because it's almost 6 yards per carry. Henry was 46 yards on 13 carries. Justice Hill was 1 run on 3 carries. That number's got to change. If you're a Raiders fan, you've listened this long, first of all, thank you. But second of all, huge disparities in run-pass ratio with Justice Hill being on the field versus Derrick Henry. Our run blocking was not sufficient. It was just not up to the task. I think the offensive line for the Ravens got a significant amount of work to do to get better. Hopefully they do. I'm a Ravens fan. I'll obviously say that, but I'm going to try to be as impartial as possible when I do these previews. Do I think that the Ravens can run the ball against this Raiders defense consistently, meaning rely on the run game to get 5 yards on every first down run? No, I don't. I think you've got to mix it up on first down. I think you may actually see some anomalous plays on first down. Reverse, screen, something to get the Raiders defense off balance and try to get the drive moving forward on first down such that the Raiders defensive coordinator, their players are back on their heels a little bit and not attacking so much. I think they're very good when they're coming downhill and attacking. I'm not saying anything necessarily yet about the pass game, like our matchups from a receiver standpoint against their DBs. I think the Ravens offensive line is going to have to play really well in the run game to be able to get 5 yards consistently on 1st and 10. So I'm talking about lining up and the Raiders pretty much knowing or having an inkling that we're going to run the football and then running it and converting it for 4 or 5 yards. I like to use 5 yards because 2nd and 5 to me is a win for the offense. And we just did not get significant push against the. Look, the Chiefs have a badass defense too. That's obvious, right? They're really good at all 3 levels. I think underrated in the secondary. I'm absolving Trent McDuffie of that. I mean, I think he's well regarded across the league. Everyone knows how good he is. But they have 4 or 5 other DBs that play well, whose names people really don't know. As it relates to the running game, should the Ravens be running more zone stuff? Should the Ravens be running more gap stuff? I don't know. I mean, I frankly don't care. Whatever is efficient, whatever is churning out yards and giving Derrick Henry running lanes. I will say this. Once you get a defense tired, I like zone stuff at that point. I like to see people moving horizontally while tired and trying to maintain their core strength and their hip strength and get their cleats in the ground. I'm talking about defense. It becomes harder then, if you ask me. So how do the Ravens start the game? I would expect to see some early play action on first down, in my opinion, kind of trying to draw the Raiders in to trying to stop the run and then hit them, not necessarily home runs down the field or anything like that, but soften that defense up enough such that we're creating a situation where we've gained a first down on a first down pass play, and then now the defensive coordinator, Graham and Marvin Lewis, who again I think has evolved significantly, are back on their heels a little bit and a little less aggressive on the ensuing sequence of plays. It goes without saying that you want to avoid 3rd and long or even 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6 at the NFL level. You're going to be a lower percent in terms of converting those. As it relates to the Raiders, I find them to be both unpredictable and very sound in what they do in these blitz packages. This set of plays here is going to be all 3rd down plays against the Chargers. Pass plays regardless of result. We'll have one play from 2023 in here. I had significant film saved up of the Raiders, and here's why. In the offseason, I mean, I did a Chiefs film study. If you're a Raiders fan and you've listened this long, consider checking that out if you want. It was quite lengthy. I probably missed on some points, but I tried to make larger connections, themes, if you will, for what they did. And as a result, I had Raiders film. There are 2 games against the Chiefs, and I went and grabbed Raiders film from 2 other games as well, because once the schedule was released and I realized the Ravens were going to play them. So this is 11 personnel. It's a 3rd and 4, first possession, and it's a 6-man rush by the Raiders. Crosby ends up getting the sack. Hobbs is blitzing off the edge. I believe it's Hobbs, 39 here. Seems like a very smart player. There's some pre-snap communication I want to point out. This stunt where Crosby goes underneath of some other rusher, whether it's a defensive tackle, whether it's a nickel defender. This is consistently used by them from the right-hand side. So I'm talking about Crosby here, how he goes underneath, and then the nickel defender is off the edge. Sometimes it's used to Wilkins' side. Sometimes it's used away from his side. I suspect that they'll put those 2 on the same side against the Ravens, on the Ravens' right, the Raiders' left. But generally that stunt, from the times that I've seen it in 2023 and 2024 with Crosby, occurs when he's on the right-hand side. Certainly he's big enough, athletic enough, fast enough, he can do it from either side. So this is a really cool stunt. I think I give you both angles. I call it occupy by the D tackle, and then the inside linebackers are both stunting. It's incomplete to Quentin Johnston up the left sideline. Oh, by the way, Jacorian Bennett, who played at University of Maryland, I mean, he's an Alabama guy from Alabama originally, is the guy in primary defense here against Johnston. But in terms of what they're doing, this defensive tackle is going to step up and occupy and then drop back into coverage. Additional to that, I think this is Wilkins. Check out what Wilkins does on the play and how that basically clears an open lane. He rips across the guard's face here. The first inside linebacker through is Spillane, goes underneath the running back, and then the second inside linebacker, Diablo, loops around. Now, Herbert had shifted to the left a little bit, so it didn't impact the play, but I'm showing you the myriad of blitzes that are there installed. I mean, it's an NFL defense. You expect they're going to be there installed already, but this team, I think, can run pretty much any of them at a moment's notice, and they can run them well. So, again, Stunton crossing the right guard's face, taking the right guard with him. Spillane going to go through the open gap and go to this side of J.K. Dobbins' block, and that allows Diablo to loop around, occupy double inside linebacker blitz. Spillane actually just kind of tried to blow J.K. up. Spillane is super underrated, man. That guy's been around for so long against the Ravens. Pretty unbelievable. I think he had a pick six against the Ravens in 2020. 3rd and 18, I'm going to show this one. You would say, Coach, this is pointless, but I'm going to show this one because I like the pre-snap communication, and I believe that we're talking about this guy right here. I think it's Hobbs, 39. And if I have the wrong name, it basically means I'm remembering Raiders film from the last 2 or 3 years. Watch what he's doing. He is literally telling the safety the route that's going to come to him. Now, this is a design play on 3rd and 18. It's designed to get Quentin Johnston the football with lead blockers out in front. I'm a big fan of these types of things. It's a no-cover zone on 3rd and 18. And then down here to the bottom side, these guys are blocking. They can't block until he gets the football, so they're taught to get off, but at a particular speed such that they're not really 100%, at least the number one receiver down here, not really 100%. And then now that Johnston's already caught the football, you've got him going to seal the safety. I think that's Hurst. Block on the nickel defender, block on the outside corner. It only goes for 13 yards, but it won't always be used on 3rd and 18. I just like the concept. I like the willingness to throw it in that no cover zone and create basically a run play inside of a pass play by blocking downfield by design, but only at a certain point in time. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. 4th possession, it's a 3rd and 5. Herbert is going to throw complete to McConkey. It's going to be short. They punted on, I think, 3 4th and 1s or 4th and 2s. Made me wonder about if Brandon Staley was the coach, how many of those would they gone for? It looks like a Tampa 2 to me. And you're welcome to let me know what you think post-snap. It certainly doesn't look like one pre-snap. With all these guys here, the nickel defender, we'll call him 39 here for fear that I might have his name wrong. Him and Spillane are going to switch. So you can see 39 is coming on the blitz. Spillane is dropping out to the hash. Diablo is going to run in the hashes between the middle of the field, basically running the pipe in the Tampa 2. I'll pause it so you can see what I mean. You got a cover 2 corner here. They don't play a ton of Tampa 2, maybe, and that's why maybe he doesn't get a bigger jam on the Johnston outside here, but cover 2 corner, basically mirrored position, hash, hook to curl, inside linebackers right there and there. And then Diablo running the pipe with your half-field safety here and here. Actually, this is not an inside linebacker. I think that's 49, but I could be wrong. In any case, it's a Tampa 2 post-snap that didn't look like one pre-snap as well. So 3rd and 5. So from that standpoint, I think it's smart. You're trying to take away the intermediate routes, not get beat by a vertical. Another 11 personnel. This one's 3rd and 15. It's a drop cover 3. And so what I mean by drop cover 3, showing a 2 high safety look pre-snap, middle of the field safety there, and these 3 guys invert post-snap. So what I mean is they stay at the sticks, the 2 safeties, the 2 outside safeties, stay at the sticks. This is the yard to gain, what I would refer to as the sticks, the positive 48 from a Chargers perspective. And then the guy who was in the middle of the field but at the second level, even though albeit deeper, ends up being the middle of the field free safety. I'm saying you've got cover 3 at the sticks, which is different than a normal cover 3. You do have 4 under here. There are different names for this, but conceptually, it's 3 deep, 4 under. Those guys are at the second level defenders are at the sticks, so that Herbert has to throw it underneath, and they can rally and go get it. I would say that one's anomalous because it's pure safety coverage. It's third and long. It makes sense, right? Generally, on these 3rd and 4s, 3rd and 5s, 3rd and 6s, you're going to get different versions of pressure. This one, Ravens fans, we might get triggered by this one. So far, in a small sample size, not in terms of effectiveness, but in terms of reach, or maybe attempt. They're attempting to be as versatile as the Ravens were last year on our third down coverages. You do have Hobbs down here, 39, as the nickel, inside linebacker, so a typical nickel look 4-2-5 against 11 personnel. That same stunt by Crosby and the defensive tackle. The defensive tackle is going upfield trying to take the guard with him and run through the inside half of the tackle's body. Crosby is crossing under. Gets a quarterback hit. It's complete to J.K. Nothing there for him. Those guys rally to the ball well. Very fast defense. Very physical. I think they're extremely well coached. We would expect or anticipate that all NFL defenses are well coached. I don't think that's the case. This one is. Same stunt being used in 2023. Crosby going to go underneath. Actually, it's a little bit of a longer loop than that. You have a lot of names on this defense. Jones, Jacorian Bennett, 39, Mooring, Robert Spillane, Diablo, Crosby. A lot of guys are there who played defense at a pretty high level last year, particularly at the end of the year. I think this is going to be a tough game. I know my opinion is probably different than a lot of Ravens fans. We just played the Chiefs very well on the road on Thursday Night Football. We certainly had some things lined up against us. Offensive line inconsistency, we'll put it that way. Perhaps some of the early calls none of us agreed with, myself included, by the referees, I mean. And we look at the Raiders as a step down from that. I'm not talking about their offense. Their defense shows markers. Their defense shows indicators of being similar to the same quality. Now, it's difficult to say that about a Kansas City Chiefs defense that, in my opinion, has been just as responsible for their last two Super Bowl wins as anyone else on the field, and I do mean anyone else on their team. Their defense the last 2 years has been able to take away things from high-level offenses on the other side in order to win games outright or catch up to you later. And I'm referring to their Super Bowl win against the Eagles. They stopped the running backs from running. Jalen Hurts had a good game on the ground, but the running backs did not. And they were able to catch the Eagles in the home stretch in the second half. Same thing, same dynamic pretty much existed against the 49ers in last year's Super Bowl. I think this defense deserves mention right now, just based on the film that I'm watching, and I could be vastly wrong after 5 weeks or 10 weeks, or hell, I could be vastly wrong after Sunday's game. But right now they look very physical and impressive and imposing, and I think the Ravens have a big challenge on their hands. At least their offense does. There's two other elements that I want to cover here, trying to preview the Ravens offense against what I believe is a potent Raiders defense. Lamar's great at extending plays, making plays with his feet, making plays with his arm when the design of the play, the structure of the play has broken down, either through pass rush being effective and getting in his face, flushing him out of the pocket, or just no one being open. There's 3 guys on the team who adjust and adapt really well during the play. I'm talking about receivers / tight ends. I think Justice Hill is one of them that does as well, but we'll omit him for a moment. Isaiah Likely, Zay Flowers, and Mark Andrews. 3 guys that during the play adapt, find open space, and Lamar is able to get the ball to them on time. Those 3 appear to be connected to Lamar when things break down. When Lamar moves outside of the pocket, steps up, and he's looking for someone, an outlet, trying to decide whether he should scramble or not. Now, there did come a time in the Chiefs game where I felt like he was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and run as soon as I see you guys drop back. And I think Lamar probably knew pre-snap, not just post-snap, looking at his first read and nothing being there. How do I know that? Why do I suspect that, I should say? Because the Chiefs were not rushing much. They weren't bringing a whole lot of pressure. I think the Raiders are going to go in the opposite direction. Maybe not every snap they're going to bring 6, but I think you are going to see heavy pressure brought against Lamar, and some less. They'll be trying to limit the unsettled situations, basically force him to get rid of the football so he can't hurt them with his legs. And along those same lines, if you don't know, there is a player that is just exploding for the Ravens right now, and he received a lot of credit for the way that he played in Week 1 against the Chiefs. That's Isaiah Likely, obviously. I don't pay attention to or ascribe to rating services. I would hope that Isaiah Likely's grade for Week 1 was about as high as it could possibly get. Because number one, he played a lot of snaps. Number two, he had tremendous impact statistically from what he did. I don't know how the near touchdown that we'll show here in a moment on the last play of the game is graded by you. I think it's a brilliant play by Lamar. I think it's a great job of Isaiah Likely finding space in the back of the end zone, and one toe happens to be out of bounds. Additional to his impact in the pass game, which is what is flowing through here, is Isaiah this is what he did last year. This is what he did to finish 2023 when Mark Andrews was hurt and out for the year. Well, out for a significant amount of time, I should say. This is what Isaiah Likely did. And I'm going to let the film roll here in a moment. If you're a Raiders fan, you may not be aware, Isaiah Likely was balling in the last, I think, 5 regular season games and then the 2 playoffs games. Didn't make as much of an impact against the Chiefs in the playoffs. I think that part of that was Andrews' return. But nonetheless, look, this is a guy who not just catching the ball well, but blocking extremely well. I did a One Play Wednesday video on this one. One Play Wednesday, I do short videos where I talk about a play concept. In this case, it happens to be Likely and Lamar dual reading the defensive end outside linebacker to this side. To their right, the Chiefs left. In this case, it's George Karlaftis. So it's a dual read play. And since Karlaftis is hedging in this direction to theoretically play a half man, I think that's what he's doing. He's playing the outside half of Henry. And then if Lamar were to run and keep it around the edge, he would play the inside half of the quarterback, half man. They're dual reading him. So Likely loops around or tries to. Karlaftis goes with him. And Likely just basically forklifts him. The same guy who had a 49-yard touchdown catch. The same guy who nearly had a 10-yard touchdown catch on the last play of the game to either give the Ravens the win or an opportunity to tie. Also upended a starting caliber, a high-level caliber outside linebacker in George Karlaftis. I think that's notable. And this type of play, that type of block, we did not see that often in 2023. But the plays down the field, we did. Likely when he was given opportunity in 2023, took advantage of it. Touchdowns, plays down the field in unsettled situations. Lamar was able to break the tackle of a huge defensive line in 91. I forget his name. And this is Likely downfield, finding space, number one. You often see him raising his hand because he knows he's open. And then second of all, elevating to go get it and taking a huge shot. He is a strong young man, not just his hands, but his hip strength and his core strength. And he's got really good speed, in my opinion. This one happens to be a design play against the Rams early on. I believe it's 4th possession, but I could be wrong. Going up top, 54, 55-yard touchdown. He's a finisher as well. When he gets in and around the goal line, Likely's a finisher. He kind of plays through people, and you get an example of that here. This is Week 18, his touchdown against the Steelers. Up the right hash, or right seam, I should say. Contact from the corner. Runs through the safety and able to dive into the end zone. He's a unique talent, and we already have Mark Andrews, one of the better tight ends in the league in terms of his reputation. Likely is now to the point where he's starting to exceed Andrews because of the big play ability. And I understand there'll be people in the comment section, Ravens fans, who say, Coach, he already has. I really don't care how or who they're ranked. I just care about the fact that they're both healthy. And as a Ravens fan, on the field often together, because that grouping looked really dangerous, I thought, last Thursday against the Chiefs. I do wonder about the Raiders' ability to cover tight ends. You saw 2 examples of Hurst making catches against them last week. The other tight end, Disley, had a catch on the first play of the game when the Raiders brought so much pressure, with their willingness, in my opinion, to bring pressure. I'm going to say tendency to do so, and I may be proven wrong in the game. Maybe they'll be more conservative than I think. I think it's dangerous for the Raiders. I think they might make plays. Maybe they drop guys into coverage because they're really good at that, dropping D tackles, dropping inside linebackers who were mugged up on the line of scrimmage. I also think that Isaiah Likely, and to Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews, other guys, Isaiah Likely is a guy who, if he beats a safety or someone in a man-to-man situation, he can take it to the house. And there's ample evidence from late 2023 and last week against the Chiefs that he is an extremely dangerous tight end, particularly to the boundary. That's where I'm going to make my point here with what the Ravens may do offensively, besides throwing on first down, trying to loosen the Raiders up a little bit. Have to figure out a way to get Derrick Henry going, in my opinion. I look for some more run concepts out of the shotgun with Likely crossing the formation, like you saw with the, I called it forklift block of George Karlaftis, where Lamar could give it, Lamar could keep it, Isaiah Likely may actually slide out into the flats, into the boundary, and Lamar throw it to him. I think that the Ravens have some very specific things that they can do. I've mentioned some of them. I'm not sure that, I think Jacorian Bennett and Jones are exceptionally talented corners. I think Jones is gifted. The ball gets near him and he and he picks it, or he picks it up. I think that's been his MO. I think they've got a really good defense over there. Their safety position covering Likely and Andrews, I think, is going to be a swing point in this game. I don't think I'm not saying that the Ravens are just going to win those matchups 100% of the time, but with the ability that we have with Andrews and Likely on the field, it'll be interesting to see how the Raiders safeties cover those guys and linebackers, particularly to the boundary, and if they actually can. It all depends on Lamar getting time. If you enjoyed this video and you're a Ravens fan, please consider commenting, because I'll be honest with you, recently, most of my videos that are Ravens related are getting the least amount of comments. And comments usually drive the video being shared to a larger audience. And Ravens videos, to be honest with you, in the last 2.5 weeks have been my poorest performing videos. And so I would ask you as a Ravens fan, if you enjoy the video, please comment on it, even if it's something short, so that the YouTube algorithm detects that. If you're a Raiders fan and you enjoyed this video, please consider grabbing a link to it, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach. I will try to have a second preview out Saturday morning that will focus on the Raiders offense against the Ravens defense that's trying to rebound after giving up 7 yards per play to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs last week. Appreciate you guys' time.